Henry James is very good on the subject. A friend of his wrote an historical novel and sent it to him, and he sent it back immediately. He wouldn't read it. He said, there's a fatal cheapness. That's this phrase, there's a fatal cheapness about an historical novel, and that he didn't approve of them, and he thought a novel should be set in the foreseeable future or in the very near future. But I think I'm uneasy about the idea of the historical novel, filled with detail, that it's so filled with period detail, period costume, that it means nothing other than the author has been in the library for too long. that in other words, if it doesn't have a contemporary resonance, then I think you're lost. Yep. And there's no point in pretending with the book you're working on that they're not the pressing urges of now are not involved with the book. And I think if it's missing that tension between now, then I think it's missing a great deal. So I'd be very uneasy about being called or writing an historical fiction.
I agree completely. I mean, when I brought up history, I was just thinking history happens in all novels. I mean, even contemporary ones, they have a past. There's some consciousness of a before. But that phrase, historical novel, I try to distance myself from it. And I guess for the reasons that Colm just cited, but I don't think of what I'm doing as historic. Even I'm writing a contemporary novel now, but my first novel, granted, it takes place in the mid-1950s, in the years leading up to the Cuban Revolution, and the new one takes place in the 70s. But I don't write in order to recreate a time that's dead and past. And my interest in being a writer and writing novels is not about resurrecting something else. It's a mode of being in the world for me. But the mode of being in the world has to have a subject, something to gnaw on. So with this book, I chose the 70s, but all kinds of things were happening around me in the world that are reflected and kind of transmuted into the pages of the book. And for me, the occasion to write has to be a kind of intermeshing of those two things, what I've chosen to write about and what I know and understand about life as I'm living it in that moment. I am interested in history in the sense of having some conception of why things are happening or how it is that people are shaped by their environment. But I think that way of looking at things can be present in a contemporary novel just as well as it can be in a novel that takes place in the past, but I wouldn't want to call it historic. And just to echo off something Colm said, I was thinking about, there's a line in one of Flaubert's letters, I can't remember who he wrote it to, maybe Louise Colette, where he says about Salammbô, you have no idea how depressed a person has to be to recreate Carthage.